Welcome to the DPB show. Yes, that's right. I am not DPB. This is Ryan Mack. DPB is just getting back from his tour day concert in Denver. So they are listening, and I am filling in as a special guest host. So you got me today. You can follow DPB and I on everywhere: X, Rumble, Facebook, YouTube. We're everywhere. But today, I'm going to kind of lay out what it looks like as the title is of the show. You guys know we kind of run down things before we get started. What it looks like for a Harris win and a Harris loss. We already know that she's light on policy. We already know that she's been pinned to Joe Biden's financial policy. But we haven't really looked at what would happen if she were to actually win and fulfill her campaign promises, because she's promised even further left of Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden and even further left of Lenin. She promises to tax more of you, to take more of your money and give it to those who have not. I don't have a lot of crazy videos today. This is just my thoughts. I've got some articles to display and give up some receipts. But so far, she has been unable to distance herself from Joe Biden. Joe Biden has not been president for 3.5 years. It's probably been Kamala Harris. She's been light on the border. She's been light on her financial outlook, other than I'm going to take more of your money. But we've seen so far from the DNC that a Kamala Harris speech lays out that she's all about attacking Trump. Now, in her speech, if you didn't watch it, I watched some of it. I'm going to walk you through some of it, just as I kind of parlay it. So she accepts the nomination for the Democrat Party. She spent much of her speech attacking former President Trump. Now, if you know that if you counted and did your drinking game during the DNC, you probably would have consumed alcohol poisoning at this point when how many times they give it and mention Trump. Trump's name came up probably about 1,000 times. They didn't mention any policy. There was one big dance party. So she made the claim that there would be serious consequences if Trump were elected. Now, I don't know about you, but I was around when Trump was a president the first time. And aside from some mistakes he made in personnel, I thought my financial success was better off. I could afford things. You could afford things better. Your streets were safer. Your cities were safer. Everything was better off. Disagree with how he tweets things. Disagree with how he says things. But you can't deny the fact that you were overall better off under a Trump presidency. But we've got a history of a presidency under Trump. And despite this, Democrats have still said he's going to be more fascist than he was. It's the leftists that are fascist. It's the leftists that have censored your voice. It is the leftists that have taken your money and put it to and given it to programs that are for non-Americans, non-citizens. It is the Democrat Party that has become the socialist party. The big government, the big Medicare, the big pharma, all of it. She also attacked Trump on being more chaotic in his first term. They threw him under the bus again for January 6th. Now, DPB was there on January 6th. And as an eyewitness account, as we always know, when you have large rallies, you have a few hundred people that can kind of take advantage of the situation and create a pattern of chaos. But for the hundreds of thousands of people that were in DC that day, they weren't the ones that were violent. They weren't the ones that were committing crimes. There's always a few hundred people in every rally that take advantage of the situation. But to call Trump and call him out for his January 6th riot, he incited the riot. Marching peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol to make your voice heard doesn't really sound harmful or violent to me. And yet they still insist. So think think about this for a minute. If you were in good position as a Democrat party that you thought you would win, would you really need to attack Trump on January 6th again? If you knew that you had a pretty god on chance to win, would you feel a need to tie him to January 6th? It riles up your base, sure, but they have no policy front to stand on. So this is what they have to stand on. The fact that Trump bad, we're good, and you should vote for us. But the fact is, you can say it nicely and still be Hitler. January 6th was not a violent riot. We've known this for the past 4 years. In fact, we've known for the past 4 years that as more information comes out, this was a setup for Trump to make it look like he was the bad guy. She didn't stop there. She ties this if he fails to win. He tried to throw your votes away, is what she said in the speech. The Democrat Party just kicked off a presidential candidate from the election cycle despite winning 14 million votes. Kamala Harris was selected by the Democrat Party, essentially because they were tied to her and Biden. They were kind of stuck in no man's land. But the party that has said Trump is going to throw your votes away literally took away the 14 million votes that Biden got during the primary. Kind of ironic to have that in your speech. Now, she claims that Trump urged his supporters on January 6th to protest the election in a peaceful manner. Well, they did. Consider what he intends to do, she says, if you give him power again. I don't know about you, but if I give Trump power again, I might be better off. Inflation might cool even more. We'll have more illegals out of our country. Dangerous people won't be in our country. The housing market might come back to where we have more options available at a more affordable rate. Grocery store prices will come down. Fuel prices will come down. I'll be able to afford gas better. I am no one special. I am not a Glenn Beck. I'm not a Dan Bongino. I don't have their assets. I'm the same like you and all of us out there in our fan base. Just somebody working hard, Central Illinois, getting by, but having to spend a lot more the last 3.5 years under a Biden-Harris economy. She plans to take this economy into the ground while she promises it's for your greater good. Think about that for a minute. Now, she says under the Biden-Harris administration, peaceful pro-life protesters have been targeted for prosecution. This is not her, but we've seen this. If you're pro-life and you are loud in your voice of pro-life, you can't even protest. First, we have the economy. She promises to do better. You'll save more. I will fix the economy on day one. Kamala, you haven't fixed anything. If you did, you can do it now. So we have our economic policy, even though we can't really find it. We know what she's going to do. She's going to make things even more expensive. But now we have a more crackdown. We've seen under Biden-Harris. If you're pro-life, you're going to be spending time in prison for praying for the unborn. Okay? You're not allowed to be pro-life under the Biden-Harris regime. And it's going to get worse. Another reign of terror under Biden-Harris or even Harris-Walz is even worse than the last 3.5 years. All they have is abortion. If you've seen Thomas DeVore lay out his reasoning for abortion issue lately on Facebook, you need to go check out what he said about it. Yes, you can be pro-life as a Republican, a conservative. You should be. You should be as a supporter of Trump and as a conservative, as a Christian, and as a believer in God, pro-life you should be. But this is an issue that is decided at the states. It's no longer a political issue where it can be won at this grandeur. We know we're going to take the loss on some of these, but it's constitutional. A federal ban is not going to happen. And it's unconstitutional if a federal ban on abortion happens. So you need to understand, as much as you think that Trump is compromising his principles on this, he is strictly adhering to the constitutionality of a national ban. Would I like to see one? Yeah, it would be a good thing implemented, but that's not about what I like or what DPB likes. It's about what's the rule of law and what's constitution. If we're going to follow the Constitution by the book, we're going to have some things we disagree with morally and our principles. Our principles are Constitution first. A Biden or a Harris Walls administration would make sure abortion access, if they get the Senate and the House, will be unfettered. You could see them crack down even more on the pro life crowd. Hospitals, doctors, they would allow abortions up to and maybe after birth. We've already seen that examples of that. This is where they stand on pro life. They are not pro life. They're only pro life if you're Democrat. Pro choice is pro abortion. But it's not a winning issue right now. You can be pro life and move on. Trump has tried to tie himself to other issues that are more important than abortion. Democrats want to rile up their base and use abortion as a winning ticket again, like it did in 2022. It was not a winning issue for Republicans because they kept bringing it up. Now, we know, switching to another topic that we know she'll be worse on, the border. If you haven't been to the border as a vice president, and we know she hasn't, she's been all over the country and all over Europe, technically. If she said it, she was. But the border is overrun. We've got 20 million, probably plus 30 million here illegally. Now, a Trump administration, this is how it differentiates. If she wins, you're going to see another 20 to 30 million people here not from here and not here legally. You're going to see more and more Americans being ousted from their properties, ousted from their homes, not able to buy homes because they're going to be incentivized to buy them for illegals. We've already seen that in California. California's trying to pass a bill that you can get a down payment assistance up to $150,000. $150,000. Americans are struggling to buy their first home, and they can't get $150,000 assistance. This is what a Harris administration looks like. You get benefits if you're not here legally. And if you're an American citizen, and especially if you're conservative, they don't like you. They hate you. They want you to go away. They want you to shut up and get in line. This is socialism. This is how societies fall. You cave to non-citizens under the DEI premise that we can open up our arms to everybody. We can talk all day long about voting the right way and pulling the vote and getting out and vote. Scott Pressler's joined the Republican Party on this, and he's registered more Republicans in states that matter right now than anybody. But this goes beyond voting. This is about every individual American soul searching. Even if you don't vote Republican, you're voting for someone who wants to turn this country, which has never been in 250 years of existence, into a Venezuela. That's not just saying, oh, just, far left or far right. This country will turn into Venezuela if you let a Harris Walls administration win. I certainly don't want that for my kids, my grandkids, my great grandkids eventually, God willing. But this is what happens if you don't wake up. This is beyond voting. This is, don't be afraid to stand on your principles. America has never been a socialist dictator country. We've never been a country that hasn't had a president in 3.5 years, but that's where we're at right now. We have not had a physical presence of a president in leadership for the last 3.5 years. And if you think somehow Kamala Harris is going to be any better than Joe Biden, you're mistaken. Well, she's nice. No, she's not. She is ruthlessly socialist. And you need to understand, and most of our audience does. Now, of course, Trump is going to hit back on some of these things, and he did in the speech. And his response was the border bill was one of the worst ever written on the border. Think about it, 20 million people coming in, terrorists, dangerous rapists. Yes, not all of them are terrible. But we have gotten to a point where we can't help everybody that comes in. We have to have a limit. Under a Trump presidency, there will be a limit to which we can help others from other countries. There has to be. You lose a nation if you don't have borders. You can be a welcoming country within the realm of legal law. Your first law breaking adventure is coming here illegally. That is a crime under US code. And Kamala Harris has been destined to say, well, pathway to citizenship. Now, why is the reason for that? This kind of flips the bill. If they lose, because this is what they're trying to do, they're trying to win as many of the votes as they can. They lose, they game plan for an election in which they can actually win and have more people voting when they have 20 to 30 more people voting Democrat. Now, this next point, these next few points are key. And I know I kind of just think them as I go sometimes, but stay with me. Never mind the Harris presidency if she wins or loses. It's what the House and the Senate will ultimately give a Trump presidency or a Harris presidency. Democrats win the White House 2025. Think about that. We get another potentially 4 or 8 years of a Kamala Harris presidency. And you can see socialism on steroids. You will see financials go off the deep end. You'll see millions and millions of new voters who will never vote Republican. You'll have cities overrun because policing will be far imagined by then. It's hard to fathom that America at one point could be a socialist country. But win or lose, they need the House and the Senate. Say Democrats win the White House. Okay, that's 1. If they get the House, that's 2. If they get the Senate, that's 3. Now think about it. If they need an extra, I don't know, 4 senators to expand their lead, you can get statehood passed for DC. You can get statehood passed for Puerto Rico. Now, unlikely any of those 4 seats would be Republican. That is 4 more guaranteed, possibly highly likely Democrat Senate seats. All they need is a simple majority to pass judicial reform. And at the rate that they are passing judicial reform now, with a simple majority, you can bet that a Supreme Court at its current stance of 9 and a 6-3 margin would cease to exist. Why stop at 13 as they've promised to stack the court at 13? Venezuela has about 130. The court is probably the last resort before a country falls. We've talked about that. Democrats are so hell-bent on reforming the court system. It's the last pillar they need to control every aspect of a nation. We have let elections slide as a Republican Party, nationally and locally. We're not very good at voting an off-year elections presidential. Consolidated elections matter. Local elections matter more sometimes than presidential. Why? Well, we already know the legals can't vote in federal elections, but they can vote locally. And if they turn out vote for Democrat, guess who gets control of the local school boards, county boards, state seats? Democrats. You'll see states flip into this totalitarian rule, authoritarian, socialism. You think Medicare is in trouble now? We have problems now in Medicare. If a government-run Medicare happens, it'll be like Canada. your taxes go up. All of this happens as a domino effect if Harris wins. She gets the White House, she gets the Senate seats, she gets the House. Her agenda to turn this into a Venezuela on steroids comes full force. And we, as an American people, can just sit back and watch it burn. That's what a win would mean. Now, before we get to that point, you've already been threatened. Yeah, you've already been threatened. No, not by Harris, not by Biden, who can't speak, not by Walls, not by Trump. You haven't been warned by Trump. No, you've been threatened by Attorney General Merrick Garland. Yes, that Merrick Garland voted down for a Supreme Court seat because McConnell blocked it, which now you think about it was a great idea. Merrick Garland doesn't want you to question election results. Why, you ask? Well, it's fair and free. He boasts in his office on Friday about his record, 1,500 Americans for protesting the 2020 election. There are still there's about, I think, 300 or so still in the gulags in DC. I'm trying to come up with someone that does the DC vigil and the January 6th prison vigil, candle vigil every night out at DC. I'm trying to come up with an episode with one of their leaders out there and let them know that we are not forgetting about them. So stand by on that. But he boasts about prosecuting 1,500 Americans on January 2021 for questioning an election. Think about this. You are in January 2025. We saw the repeat, right? You say the election was stolen in a tweet, a text, a post on social media. Hell, at 10 years, we might even think it, and you can be prosecuted at this rate. Merrick Garland's already warning you not to question the election. So is he insinuating that Harris would win? Are they gearing up for a steal? You didn't hear it here, but in more ways than one, they are. They're trying to make the polls appear closer than they are so they can gear up for a possible explanation as how they stole it. Well, that's conspiracy theory. Now, is it? Right now, the polls have underestimated Trump's support as they did in 2016. Kamala Harris shouldn't be within even an eyebrow of Trump, but she is. He's still ahead nationally, but it's closer and closer than it should be. Are you getting nervous yet that she could possibly win? If you're not, you should be. It's about execution. But Merrick Garland doesn't want you to have that opinion. Why would he? Speaking at a press briefing, Garland said January 6th prosecutors should serve to remind Americans what happens if they raise a question about the election process. He said, I think our prosecutions have made it clear that what we think about the American people who try to interfere with a peaceful transfer of power. Now think about this. What does he mean by trying to interfere with a peaceful transfer of power? I'm sorry, but in the Constitution, you have a right to petition your government. You have a right to assemble peacefully. You have a duty to overthrow a tyrannical government in this country. What does that look like? Does that look like just voting? The founding fathers weren't stupid. They were some of the most brilliant minds in our country's founding. They knew a pure democracy would be a disaster for the history of this country. That's why we're not a democracy. They wrote specifically, we are a republic based on the democratic ideas of voting, an election, a representative democracy, and government. We have forms of democracy. We are not a pure democracy. So, an essential and fundamental element of our democracy, as Garland boasts, is about letting a peaceful transfer of power exist. So, if you question election results next January, you may have an FBI visit at your door. If you tweet about it, if you Facebook post about it, if you put it all over social media, the election was stolen, expect under a Harris-Walz administration to be prosecuted, to be censored, to be put in gulags. They're not messing around and they're getting desperate day by day. That's if they win. They don't want you to question their authority. Anytime that Democrats have won an election, it was free and fair, the most secure election in history. I raised them Gore Clinton or Gore Bush. Clinton Trump 2016. She wrote a book about it. What actually happened? She thinks that Russia stole the election in 2016. Stacey Abrams couldn't put a fork down in Georgia. Claims that she was the governor. She won Georgia. Not once, but twice. Every election they have lost, they have denied the results. They have questioned the results. Yet when they tell you you're not allowed to question election results, they don't care about hypocrisy. It's hierarchy. We're in charge. You're not. Sit down and shut up. Take it. A Kamala Harris victory would mean maybe another round of Merrick Garland as Attorney General. I don't know. She hasn't given out who her cabinet members would be yet. I can bet that if she keeps some of the people in charge, you're going to see another DEI cabinet and a rogue hack pissed off at the world, Merrick Garland being AG. And if you think he's threatening you now for questioning the results of election, he will actually full force carry out that enforcement if they win. So DOJ prosecutors, DC judges are warning the hammer will come down on Americans. I want you to think about that. As early voting starts next month, and as it kicks off the voting season, right, left, indifferent, independent, whatever, vote on your principles. What do you stand for? If you're pro-life, why would you vote Democrat? Well, they're nice. They're pro-choice. No. Democrat Party is for unrestricted access to abortion. If you're for fiscal responsibility, why would you vote Democrat? They plan to turn the government fully unleashed into the private sector. Private public partnership is what you'll see. The price controls. If you think prices are high now under a Biden-Harris administration, think about what they would be under a Harris-Walz administration for a minute. If you need roughly 11,000 to 17,000 more right now on your household to get by, how much more you would need if they implement price controls. Now we can sit here and say and argue that, oh, well, the Supreme Court won't allow it. They won't allow these. No, you're mistaken. And that's a losing mentality. They have ignored the Supreme Court time after time. We've seen it with student loans. They've hammered down the student loan strategy. They didn't care. They go right around it. Price controls will ruin this economy. As much as it's bad now, say you make something for $5 and you're selling it. My wife makes blankets, 50 Shades of Fleece for all those wanting a blanket for the fall, cool weather coming up. Get yourself a blanket, and she makes tons of other things. 50 Shades of Fleece. That's a unpaid sponsor plug. There you go. Say I make a blanket for $5. I sell it for $10. I make $5 on it. I might invest it in more blanket making, or I might turn it into the workers' pay. That's just a simple number to give you impact here. Now, I make the same blanket under a Harris administration, and she caps it at $5. Now I'm only making a blanket for at cost. It cost me $5 to make it. I charge $5 extra. I make, $5 on it. Now she charges me, that tells me that I have to only charge $5 because they're capping at $5 to make that. I'm not making any money. So guess what I'm going to do? Not making more blankets. My business goes under because I'm not incentivizing or making money. Now do that tenfold with big business. You're making whatever you make. Groceries, you'll have less under price controls. You think grocery prices are high now? You're going to want goats and pigs and chickens in your backyard if price controls are implemented. Let's say dozen eggs. What are they right now? $4 some places. That's kind of high for eggs, dozen eggs. Harris says, no, you can't charge more than $1 or $2 for a dozen eggs. What do you think that's going to do? It's going to put a lot of businesses, egg making businesses, out of business. You sell a car. Nope. You can't make that car for more than what you paid to produce it. Guess what? Now you have no more cars. Price controls will ruin this economy and ruin this nation faster than anything else going on. Now let's remember that. Beyond the social issues of which Republicans have managed to lose, economically, aside from the pandemic, they've been relatively fiscally responsible for the most part. I would think if you had the House and Senate under Republican leadership, you would do more to kind of rein in the spending in the federal government. But socially, Republicans have catch up to do. We're gaining ground on some of the cultural issues, but we are still way behind Democrats on the social issues. That has to change. Now, like I said earlier, Senate Democrats are virtually certain to pass Supreme Court reform by majority vote 2025. So let's say they win the majority. Okay. Harris wins the White House. She gets the Senate majority. Republicans in Senate stand pretty much useless at this point. This was from Reason.com. Congressional Democrats are making plans to reform the Supreme Court and counteract recent abortion and voting rights decisions they obtained unified control of Congress while retaining the White House. So they plan to undo Roe v. Wade. They plan to bring up the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which means federally run elections, no longer states have a say. This was according to Senator Whitehouse, who had appeared on the panel last Thursday at Democrat convention to address these issues. If Democrats capture the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives, Whitehouse said, Democrats would be virtually certain to pass a Supreme Court reform bill by simple majority, evading the current 60-vote filibuster requirement requirement for legislation. So normally you have a 60-vote threshold for anything outside of a judicial passage. You can thank Harry Reid for that also, because Trump wouldn't have had 3 Supreme Court justices if he didn't have that rule in place. It came back to bite the Democrats. For everything else in the Senate, you have to get 60 votes. It's hard in this divided country to get 60 votes in the Senate. If Democrats reform the Senate and go away with the filibuster on everything, you can kiss everything about about this country goodbye. They don't need to have 60 votes anymore to pass Roe v. Wade bills, to overturn what was in the Constitution to go to the states. They can bring up and Lewis Voting Rights Act. Filibuster is what the Democrats have wanted for so long until it becomes disadvantageous to them. Well, there he is, the man of the hour.
Hey, I got bumped off. I'm sorry. You've been doing such a great job. Just ignore me. Don't look at me. Go back to what you were saying. I'm removing myself.
So, look at what simple majorities have done. On the one hand, we've got 3 more Supreme Court justices in Trump's term. Okay? Yes, while I agree to that, I think that's a great thing. I think that it can come back and bite you in the ass if Democrats control the trifecta. You lose the filibuster. My time in U.S. history courses in junior high and high school and learning about government, the filibuster used to be somebody rambling on for hours and hours and hours to try to stop a bill, kill a bill. And even the voting process, the 60-vote threshold is important to slow down what the House passed. House passed a terrible bill that needed to be amended. You need to amend that 60-vote threshold. It's important. I know we got a bunch of comments here, so I will chime in. take a break on that. Yep. Amanda. Yeah, she hasn't been to Europe either. Sarah. Emily, yeah, you're absolutely correct. People are going to have to start waking up and vote Trump, or at least we'll be lost as a country. Yeah. 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 My Labrador Retriever has more brains than Kamala. Yes. Even the people who are so called for Kamala don't even know why they're voting for it. They're voting by the letter in her name next to their name. They're not voting because they like her. They're voting because she's not Trump. You're right. It's the same thing in 2020. They're not voting for Joe Biden. Joe Biden was never the option for them. They're voting for Harris the same reason why they voted for Joe Biden, because Donald Trump lives in their brain rent free. Now, getting back to this filibuster issue, because it's very important. The Senate is by design slower, slows the pace of government to stop terrible laws from becoming before they can amend them. And the veto at the president's desk is supposed to be for anything that was anti-American. It's not used by that anymore. So to get around the filibuster, Democrats have a process that allows very substantial debate from the Senate minority. Also, they're going to let you debate. They're going to let you debate getting rid of the filibuster, but then they'll just get rid of the filibuster. Senator Whitehouse even hosted an event at the Brennan Center for Justice. We're not going to want to give Republicans multiple stalls, multiple filibusters on this. So the bill that gets around the filibuster will be certainly to include permanent reproductive rights, permanent restored voting rights, which I don't know what that means, because if you're legally able to vote in this country, you have voting rights. What they mean is we want everybody, illegal or not, to vote. Nobody has suppressed the vote in this country. If you're an American citizen and you don't have a felony, in certain circumstances, you're allowed to vote. You have a right to vote. You should absolutely utilize it. No one has lost the right to vote unless you have moved, died. Well, you can still vote Democrat if you died, apparently. But this is what they do. They say, well, yeah, you can debate it, but we don't want you to stall it. This is our agenda. Removing the filibuster, ladies and gentlemen, removes your freedoms. This reproductive rights. If you're a woman listening, did you lose reproductive rights under Biden or Trump? I'm generally curious because for all this talk about reproductive rights and Trump's going to take them away, and he's Hitler, and he's terrible, and he's for life. Oh my God, he's for babies being born. Did you lose anything under Trump the first time? If you're a woman, the right to choose whether or not you want to kill your child? I don't think so. But with the Democrats, the filibuster means got to cut it off. This is the same party that was the party of eugenics. Yes, that same eugenics, where we forcibly sterilize you from having babies and we make you get abortions if you're stupid. This is the party that allowed abortions to be done for entire black communities in this country under the founder. Bet you didn't know that, liberals. The founder of the Planned Parenthood wanted to rid the country of blacks and a lesser generation. Her words. They are a lesser, inferior race. Let's get rid of them. Still want to vote Democrat? Okay. Just checking. Now, getting rid of dark money in voting and Supreme Court reform. That's what they want. The same party that utilizes dark money after raising $540 million for Kamala Harris is saying we want to get rid of dark money. Notice they didn't have anything about expanding Second Amendment rights or First Amendment rights or anything that would be good for conservatives. No, just packing the Supreme Court to 15, 17, 19, 20, 25, 30, 100. That's their packing ideal, because every time the argument is dead with that, because how many Supreme Court justices are enough? It's been 9 for a while and it's been sufficient. But why stop at 13? Why stop at a 7-6 Democrat majority? Even if they keep winning, why not go to 20-10, 20-10 margins, get 30, right? When you stack the Supreme Court like Venezuela has done, it never keeps ending at the number that they legit. They need the number to keep going up they need more liberal policies. So if a Republican president can just appoint 4 more conservative justices, then you just keep adding on. That's a disaster, and that's how you kill a republic. Now, while President Harris herself, Vice President Harris, well, you can call her president, has not publicly endorsed this plan to remake everything and get rid of the filibuster, the Biden-Harris administration has endorsed broad strokes of such reforms, including term limits for justices. This has led to Senator Whitehouse to conclude that a Harris-Walz administration would support his plan. So if Biden-Harris supported the reforms, certainly a Harris win would mean the same thing. They would reform all of the institutions and embed them with their people. That's what a Harris administration would do with the Supreme Court and with a Senate House majority. They would cripple what we knew this country would be. I don't know about you, but I don't want any part of that. Hey, what's up?
Hey, I had to jump on, man. I'm
Absolutely.
sorry for that little brief interruption.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Tanya and I, wow, what a day.
Yeah.
So really, it's kind of interesting, and I want to share with you a little bit about it. We were scheduled to fly into Bloomington on Frontier, and unfortunately, Frontier is not flying into Bloomington any longer. But when we went out on Monday, we just believed, we put our car in Peoria, put our MyPilot at Bloomington Airport, and lo and behold, my daughter-in-law, let me turn my head around because it looks a little dark in here. I got a very sweaty head because that's going to be part of the story. There we go. Now I'm feeling a little better.
They look better. There you go.
But I am sweaty, Ryan, because not to belabor it for the rest of the show, but needless to say, thankfully, our daughter-in-law who works for Frontier was able to get us on standby out of Denver. We caught a flight to Midway, but then the John Candy version of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and started. And we ended up taking the Metra, the Orange Line, from Midway into the Union Station, only to find out that the 152 train leaving, the Amtrak train, which is the Eagle, I guess the Eagle something train that goes all the way to Texas, it was full. It was sold out. So we were like, okay, now what do we do? The next train's 5 something tonight. And lo and behold, 3 seats opened up. My wife was just rabid about it. She got on top of it, got the plane or the train tickets, and we were able to make the 152 train back and arrived here around the start of the show.
Yeah.
That's when you and I spoke briefly, but rather than call a friend or call a lifeline, my wife pointed out, yes, I'm tattling on her. She's in the next room. She can hear me. And she had over 7,700 steps in today. I guess we did because we've been together, pretty much since the 1st of August, hooked at the hip, and everything we've done. She wanted to reach her goal because she gets little confetti that flutters down when she meets the 10,000 step goal. And so she said, let's walk from the train station in Normal and to my house. She was able to garner her 10,000 steps for the day.
Nice.
Hey, victory. It's the small things. It's the small victories that we've got to take. So yes, I'm feeling like, and I had jeans on because, I don't know about you, Ryan, but when I fly on a commercial plane, I have no idea why it is. I believe that if I have my jeans and my tennis shoes,
you'll be safer,
and a long sleeve shirt, that if and Lucifer outside the airport, I for some reason I feel like if something goes wrong, I want to be equipped. So I want to have my jeans on and my tennis shoes. Like if the plane were to go down, that suddenly I would be able to Superman it in something and have my jeans on.
It'd be easier to find all your body parts if you had your jeans on, I think.
Well,
if you had
this is
shorts
true.
on, it might hamper the need to search.
That's right. That's right. But anyhow, we made it. I'm feeling a little heat exhausted. I heard it got warm here.
Yeah, it was hot.
Coming back from the 12% humidity of the Rocky Mountain air, when it's 91 degrees, it doesn't feel. I mean, it's warm. There's no question about it, but it's a different kind of warm. As the old saying goes, it's a dry heat. Well, it is. I mean, there's not the humidity. It's you still get hot. Don't get me wrong, but we're back. DPB is safely back home. I wanted to jump on, tell you did an amazing job. You know, something I heard you say, Ryan, and I'm sure the rest of the audience heard, and you know, by all means, we want to see your comments. Thank you for sharing. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Amanda. You know, definitely I saw somebody was working the comments. I noticed that Amanda's last comment's still up there, but there's other comments. Oh, there's plenty of comments that we can get up there, Sarah. But you know, when we talk about the interfering with the transition of power in the United States, what in the world did Obama and Biden and Clinton do when Trump won the election? I'm pretty certain when the former president actually buys a home blocks away from the United States Capitol, I don't know, I think it's something in the value of $7 or $8 million, the home he bought in Washington, D.C. Of course, he has 4 homes. And of course, they want to point out that people shouldn't have 4 homes, even though they have 4 homes.
You don't need it. Yeah.
What was he doing setting up shop there? They were obstructing the transition of power.
Talk about, you know, interrupting peaceful power.
Yes.
They could do it and it's fine. Yep. They do it. It's all fine. Like I said, all fair game when they do it.
And there's a video out there, and I wish I'll get it for Tuesday, where it's a collage of a montage, I should say, of them saying exactly what they intended to do, which was to interfere with the peaceful transition of power. So it was okay in 2016. It was okay to obstruct. It was okay for Russian collusion. It was okay for spying. It was okay for the PP hoax. It was okay to continue to try to disrupt everything about the Trump presidency.
Multiple investigations to impede his progress and his agenda. The House didn't want to do anything. The Senate slowed his roll. I mean,
But now, I didn't mention the best part.
The
Renner riot. They literally tried to burn down every city. Not just the United States Capitol, which, by the way, was more of a Fedsurrection than an insurrection. There were more federal people there, I truly believe.
No one in that crowd was armed. They were there unarmed. The only person that died and was shot that day was an unarmed mom.
Ashley Babbitt. That's a veteran of the United States Air Force.
So, you know, what it means for a win or loss, a loss would categorize the same kinds of repeat behaviors. Burn down cities, plant Antifa at the Capitol or the streets, and make it burn, make it hurt, make it impossible for normal Americans to get on with their lives and prosper forward. It's just rinse and repeat. That's what this Democrat Party wants if they lose.
And that's where we're at. And that's why the last show that we did, we talked about the Ren riots, or one of the last shows we did. I mean, they're all running together, because this is the part that you're right, Ryan. They plan on stealing the election. They plan, and we've got to go out and we've got to do everything, which we can ballot harvest. We can go out and get people to bank their vote. We can get people to vote early. We can get people to talk to their friends and family, people who are the unreliable voters, and literally tell them, you know what, this is pretty much where it's at. You're always coming to me asking me how I can help you, whether it's financially or emotionally or physically or spiritually. And really, why don't you help yourself? Go out and vote.
Conversation recently with one of our bus drivers, and he's a longtime Gridleyite, so he coached me in basketball, and I don't know where he stands, at least for the most part. I think he actually thinks about not voting this time because he can't stand either one of them. But that's a different conversation.
Because he's into personalities and not into governance.
Yes. And one of the things that he said was that the pendulum always swings back and forth no matter who's in office. I said, to an extent, But I kind of left it at that. We're in a bus full of kids. We don't want to get crazy. But I don't think that that's the case anymore under this regime and the Democrat Party. You can't get that pendulum back this time around.
Well, and he's right to some degree that there is the swing of the pendulum. But you know what? It's not supposed to be designed to swing as a pendulum.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
And that's what he doesn't understand.
Yeah, like this whole you go extreme left, we'll be fine. It'll swing back right. I really don't think that's going to happen if you have a Harris-Wallace victory. They are going to completely burn this place to the ground and build it in their vision. And they have 8 years to do so if they win again.
Yep. Nope. And you're true. You're speaking the truth, Ryan. Bottom line is what we're up against now is whether our country, whether we save America, whether we continue to remain to be a constitutional republic, whether it is that we are a free people, whether we see an economy as I reported on Tuesday, literally Denver has become San Francisco. The migration, and we're not talking about illegal migration now, even though that's part of it.
Right.
The migration of liberalism, progressivism, Marxism has moved from San Francisco, from California to the Front Range. Mm-hmm. And if you don't believe for a second, they're looking to close in. The Newsoms, the governor of I can't just drew a blank on the governor of Colorado, the governor of Illinois.
Polis?
Yes, pull it up real quick.
Yeah,
but they want to sandwich the nation. They want to move. They want chaos. They need chaos because
Jared Polis.
Yeah, Polis could step in and do something. The mayor of Denver could step in and do something.
Gavin Newsom waited until legally being told to by the Supreme Court that he can remove homelessness camps.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you had the authority all along.
Yeah. I mean, it is a mini California in Denver. And bottom line is Trump is right. When anything that goes woke turns to, and he says it's a 4-letter word that rhymes with hit. And it is true. Literally turns to poop.
Yeah, and I didn't even get into the social and cultural aspect of if they when I touched on some of them, but I just was talking just a grand picture. I can get into the nitty-gritty next time about the cultural issues that we've been losing. We've been gaining ground on most of them, but there's a whole other world that they get into. It can make it worse.
Yeah. Well, my friend, you knocked it out of the park. I listened to your entire show. You've got a rhythm and you've got the material. Keep going, because you and I obviously are on this quest. Nobody is, I've said before, nobody's paying you and I to be here. We know that we're not, the gifted. We're not trying to claim to be Rush Limbaugh or Dan Bongino or Mark Levin or Tucker Carlson. But who we are it's a different, unique twist. We're not even Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. We're the DPB show and the Ryan Mack show, and this collaboration, because it's two minds are better than one. And who we are is we're on the street. You're in the classroom. You're in the education system. Me, I'm in the real estate business. I'm in the wedding venue business. I'm out on the streets. I'm working the political scene from where the rubber meets the road. And I'm seeing people, I'm talking to people, and this is the difference. Kamala Harris isn't living in Denver.
No.
Even in fairness, neither is Donald Trump.
Sure.
But Donald Trump has worked his tail off, contrary to what the leftists say, that they believe that that he stole it, that he lied about it. Now
he has a grand picture of what the country needs, and the Democrat Party has never been on that bandwagon.
Well, on Thursday or Tuesday next week, I believe there's a lot that's going to happen over the weekend. I mean, you're seeing that kind of set itself up. The things that we don't want to talk about. We don't want to talk about the fact that they've already cremated the assassin who tried to take President Trump's life. Once again, no DNA evidence. We know very little, so they're going to continue to bury that story. Kamala now has become Trump life. She's running.
She has no policies. Yeah, well, I'll fix it day one.
Yeah, well, no, she fixed her platform real quick. She's running on Trump's platform. Yeah. What a brilliant idea.
Yeah,
tell absolutely. People that you came up with all these ideas that you never came up with. And so it's going to be interesting, obviously ahead of a debate, if we even indeed have a debate, because right now I don't believe that she wants to step on a stage and debate. I know that I said Tim Walz. It's Mike Walz.
It's Tim. Yeah, it's Tim. Tampon Tim.
Oh, that's right. Yep. How could I forget? Why do I want to call him Mike Walz?
Mike Walz is probably he's probably a really nice guy. Tim's the other guy.
Yeah, Tim. The Mike's a good guy. Tim, he likes to put tampons in little boys' bathrooms.
So I know ABC shot down the rules that Harris wanted to change, so that is a thing. They did shoot it down, but it's like we talked about before. The filibuster has always been a traditional thing to stop the flow of bad ideas in the Senate. No different than a debate. You have to have a debate at least twice through a presidential campaign season. Let the issues be discussed. That's important.
Yeah. Well, and ultimately, once again, it's when people start truly getting outside of their selfishness and who they are. Yeah. And I'm speaking about myself. Believe me, I have a life where I came home to a house that's air conditioning. I'm not sleeping on the streets. I'm not in a food kitchen line. I don't believe it has to be that way. I'm not a family that's struggling, that's exporting my kids out to everybody because I'm trying to make a living just to afford the groceries that I'm buying at the grocery store. I know that there can be a better life for everybody. I know that children can eat better, sleep better, exist better. I know that people in general can do all of those things. I know we can have a healthcare system that's second to none.
Yep.
But we don't choose to have it because people get in the way. Greed gets in the way. We have become a very greedy people. We've become a very possessive, obsessive people.
Yeah.
And our children are modeling that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We don't look at our neighbor, it just is what it is, and it's sad. And I'm not going to be part of it. I'm going to reach out to my fellow human. I want to be Christ here on this earth to others every day that I'm here. I don't want one day to go by where I miss an opportunity to do that.
Absolutely.
Hey, as I said, man, you knocked it out of the park. Good job. Thank you for sitting in and co-hosting.
Absolutely.
And yes, I wanted to jump on because I think it's important, because you hit upon so many good points, and I know that you were probably going to walk that out, but I couldn't help myself. I had to interject. I had to
that's fine.
I had to talk about the peaceful transition of power. That was not the case. There's no peaceful. In fact, Jack Smith is still indicting Trump.
Yeah.
They're going to continue to want to indict Trump.
Yeah. Imagine that if you were winning a campaign. Theoretically, if you were in the ropes of winning it and you felt confident enough, you wouldn't need to keep indicting Trump.
Yeah.
That's another. Yeah.
Destroy Trump.
You didn't need to do so if you were actually thought you were winning the campaign.
Yeah. They're not winning. They're losers. They're losers who. Anyhow. Hey, I know it's the end of the show. Appreciate you. Appreciate everything you do. I know that we're nearing the end of August. Early voting is right around the corner, September 22nd. Once again, go out, bank your vote, claim your vote, name your vote, or claim your vote. Claim your vote.
Claim your vote.
Whatever Carol Davis said. Claim your name, claim your vote, or claim your ballot. Make sure that you're voting your ballot. Make sure that you're getting everybody out there. Hey, a big victory in the state of Texas. They got over 1 million people taken off the voter rolls in Texas.
That's huge.
What a victory. The Governor Abbott, he's not messing around. I mean, there were 500,000 dead people on their ballots.
Ridiculous.
On their voter rolls.
That's a difference. Texas isn't as large of a victory as it once was. That's a huge difference. That's a good win for conservatives.
It is a good win. And if we could just do that in Cook County, If we could just get the dead people, because I know it's funny, we laugh about it, but it's true. We have inactive voters who probably are not living and could very well likely have voted. And we've uncovered some interesting scenarios where a 102-year-old person voted in a precinct in our county. I mean, come on. And then they lived on campus. They're the world's oldest graduate from Illinois State University. They're not graduated yet. They're still attending college at 102 years of age.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Tuesday next week, buddy.
Absolutely.
We'll be back. Hey, I appreciate everything you do. Thanks. I know at times it's, we're just walking this out. Like you said, Ryan, I agree with your idea, man. I might be taking it to the streets and hopefully you might join me in just going places and talking to people and finding out what's going on. And I think it's a great idea because I want to hear from more people that are out there. But as we always end the DPB show, I love you. I know Ryan loves you, but Jesus loves you more. Until next Tuesday, go out and tell friends, go out and get involved, be kind, be patient with people.
Just have conversation. People. Yep.
Talk. That's right. Just learn to love people by talking to them. You don't have to win an argument with them. You're not going to convince people. First of all, most of the time they're so ill-informed about what is going on out there because they're so eaten up by what it takes to actually exist in today's Bidenomics.
Yep.
So, hey, until next week, I bid you farewell. We will talk to you guys soon.